It's also okay to give up on your goals. And welcome back to Running Rants with Helen. Like always, I'm Helen, and this is where I rant and talk about whatever I want. And today, because it's almost New Year's, and I feel like a big thing around that is like setting our goals for the next year. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about like how I like manage my goal setting, like what I think, like big goals, little goals, ABC goals, all of them, and just my thoughts about it. So one of the things is I live in Truckee, and so it's winter and it's cold, but also it hasn't been cold enough, so it just keeps raining, and that has made it not that fun. And I'm tired of being in the wind. I think last week I said I don't want to be an outside girl, and that's just not normally who I am. So I decided I wanted to go to Joshua Tree, and tying into goals, I usually like to find one FKT a year that kind of ties in with training or like leading up to a race that I feel like makes sense. So like I did Mount Whitney before I did CCC the first time, and then last year I did Cactus to Clouds back to Cactus before Transvolcania, and then I'm running Terraware 100K in February. So it's like looking at some routes down there, and there's the Joshua Tree Traverse, which is like 37 miles and like 3,000-ish feet of gain. And so I started looking at that, and I thought it would be fun. The time is also really fast. At least it seems really, really fast to me. Claire Gallagher had it, and then Keely Huntinger had it, and then now Jade Bellsberg has it, and it's like 4:40 and some seconds, which I think is like 7:40-ish pace, which is to me like, I don't know, this seems really fast, but I still want to try. And like I think that ties in with goals, just because I think it's okay to like state big goals even if like you are unsure, or, like you don't know if you can do it. I feel like that's kind of like the fun. And like I'll talk more about it, but I just feel like I would rather like state my goals and fail publicly than like not, and then maybe not live up to like the potential. So I'm excited to try that. I'm thinking of doing it probably like within the first week and a half of January. I was gonna go down there like probably on the 4th and then stay for like 5 or 6 days. So somewhere in there. Yeah, and I feel like it'll be a nice time for vacation and to be warm and to run on dirt and sand, because as you can see, I'm on a path. With goals, I feel like I don't know, I feel like it kind of gets tricky, because at some point, like, I mean, you can have place goals and all of that when it comes to racing, but like at some point I feel like it kind of becomes tricky, because like most of the time if I do go to a race, like my goal is to win, but also that's not a very good goal because it's kind of out of your hands. Like obviously you can try your best, but like that's a goal where like it kind of depends on other people. And so like I don't know, I don't really like goals where like there's a big emphasis on what other people are doing or things that like I have no control over. And also like I don't know, for a lot of us, like winning is very few and far between, and so it also doesn't feel great. Like I think it's good to have big goals, but it also doesn't feel great like if you never accomplish any of your goals. And sometimes I feel like that is tied into how you're setting them. So like outside of that, I think like depending on the race, like time goals can be good, but also like it's easy to get discouraged if you like fall off of that pace or you feel like it's out of reach. And so sometimes I like a little less tangible goals, like, I don't know, like keep a positive attitude throughout the whole race, or like, I don't know, make sure that I'm eating all my snacks, although that is very tangible. And like, I don't know, so when I wasn't running, I really didn't think I was gonna race again, and I didn't have plans to, and I didn't race for like probably the first year I got back into running. But I think a fun thing about racing, or like having goals on top of that, is like it gives your training direction. Because otherwise I feel like sometimes you can be just willy-nilly, and like, I mean, I think the point is fun, but I still think like sometimes it can feel kind of like, what is the point? So I think goals in races really help with that part. I also set some goals like completely, well, I set goals that like don't have anything to do with running, but then even within running that don't have anything to do with racing. Like, there's this website you can connect to Strava called like Wanderer, and it keeps track of the unique miles that you run in a year. And so like next year my goal is to run 1,000 unique miles that I haven't ever run before. And so I feel like that like can keep training fun too, because then you run in different places, or like you try to find new trails. Yeah, so I feel like that one is fun. I think sometimes like having one big race goal can kind of like help inform if you're going to race other times during the year, or like what you race. And so I want to run my first 100-miler this year, and that kind of like informed some of the other race choices that I've made. But you will not find me posting my race schedule, because last year I did that, and I think I only finished one of the races that I put on there. I either DNF'd or DNS'd all of them, and I ran a bunch of races that I didn't announce. So I think I'm overdoing that. I'll tell people what I'm racing like before it happens, but no more posting race schedules for me. Because when I first started running again, I'd race like 250Ks, and then I signed up for my first 100K, which is up in Truckee, called Castle Peak 100K RIP. And when I signed up, I like didn't really understand how races like that worked, just because like I'd only really run smaller races that you could like sign up for the week before. So when I signed up, I was like number 200 on the wait list, and I emailed the race director, and I don't know, I literally emailed him, sorry Peter, and said, I think I can win your race. I think the women's course record is soft, so I think you should let me in. And I got a response that was like, you know, we have a lot of movement on the wait list, like we'll see, like you'll probably get in. I don't know if I just got in that way or if he let me in, but like, I don't know, it's kind of delusional to say that, especially, well then at that point I run 350Ks, but I don't know, I don't really think I had any business doing that. And like, I honestly would never do that now, even though like maybe I have more to back it up. I think it was just like, I didn't know. But I did win, and I think I got 4th overall, and I did not get the course record. It turns out I was slower than that, it was not soft. But I will say that they changed the course. So the year I ran it, it was a lot hillier, but that's just an excuse. Cookie break. We made gluten-free and vegan chocolate chip cookies. They're not that good. But I found if I eat them during runs or during exercise or immediately after exercise, they taste a lot better. But I think like relating to that, it's like, okay. I mean, I'm a little delusional, and I always kind of have been when it's like come to trail running. Like, there have been like few races. I mean, CCC the first time, I did not think I was going to win. But like since then, like, and even before then, like most of the time if I sign up for a race, like whether or not it's warranted, like I do think I'm going to win. And I think it's like a mixture of self-belief and delusion. But I do think like the self-belief component is really important because first of all, like if you don't believe in you, like no one else is going to. And like, I don't know, it's kind of like a fake it till you make it situation. Like, yeah. I mean, at some point, like, I do think it's important to maybe have some things that back it up, because otherwise that is just like pure delusion, and then people are like, what the fuck is this girl on? But yeah, I think like part of that self-belief too is like our brains don't really know the difference like in feelings of what is real and what is made up or just in our heads. And so then like I feel like emotionally and mentally you're more easily like able to accept those things when they happen. Like I will never be surprised if I win a race. Like that's one thing I never understand. I don't know if people are out here just like sandbagging and they're like, oh my god, I'm shocked. But like honestly, that could never be me. And yeah, I think like, I guess tying into that, like we manifest like what our energy is on, not necessarily what we want. And so I think like preparing for the best and like focusing your energy on like the best possible outcome is just like a better way to go about it than to like say, well, like if this goes wrong, then I'll do this. Or like I have to make sure that like I prepare just in case all of these bad things happen, because then like that's what your energy is on, and I feel like then in that case it's a little bit more likely to happen. And I would rather just, if things start going wrong, like problem solve in those moments and like figure it out then, instead of like focusing all of my energy leading up to it on those things that aren't even real yet. So I guess that also helps inform my goals. But I think also with like the delusion and self-belief, like when I was running in college, I never ever, not probably even once ever considered I was going to win a race. Because the likelihood of that happening, I don't think was at all a thing. And like, I think it would have been pure delusion, especially since like in the 10K, I was trying to not like get lapped twice by girls. So I probably wasn't gonna win. So I guess it's like changed over time too. And also I didn't think I was going to win, and I absolutely didn't. But like, I think your training also kind of helps inform like those decisions. Because it's not like I'm saying,
I think I can win CCC or UTMB, and then like I'm not training for it. Like I'm putting in like the time and the effort and the training and everything that like leads up to that. So like it is possible and plausible. Because also like, yeah, I don't really think you're going to win a race if you don't think you're going to win a race. Because I feel like sometimes you race differently if you think you can win versus like, I think I can be in the top 10. And maybe like in the top 10, you make like less risky choices or decisions in your race strategies. How you race changes like based off of your goals too.
The difference between delusion and having lofty goals, talk about how that changes in your mind depending on your preparation or depending on just being naive to the situation.
Sometimes I think being naive to the situation actually like can play to your benefit, especially like in longer races, because if you've done it a few times, you're like, whoa, holy heck, this feels like way worse than it did that one time. But if you've never done it before, you're like, yep, I'm just supposed to feel this awful, which I don't know. So sometimes I think being naive like can benefit you. I don't know. I think maybe it's different for everyone. Like the difference between delusion and self-belief, but yeah, I mean, I think I'm also like usually pretty realistic.
Do you think there's a downside to being in that delusional camp when it comes to self-belief?
Yeah, a little bit. Because people might think you're absolutely insane, but I feel like especially in trail running, like we have such short-term memory, like it's hard to remember, and there's so many races and so many people, so I feel like it's like even hard to remember like back a few years of like who won what, or like people just don't remember, which is fine. So I feel like it's kind of okay to be like, yeah, I'm gonna win that and I'm gonna break the course record and like announce it and tell the people, because realistically in like 2 months everyone will forget anyways. People don't really think about you as much as you probably think they do. So I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things that like, yeah, I mean, there are for sure some runners out there that like will state their big goals, and even I am on the other side and I'm like, there's no freaking way. But maybe there's.
Have you ever been surprised though?
Have I ever been surprised?
By someone else's?
I'm trying to think. Not yet, but stay tuned.
You mentioned having tiered goals. So
yeah.
Talk about the importance of having an A, B, and C, or D, or Z goal. Because why wouldn't you just try to get your A goal, right?
Well,
so talk about the importance of that.
Well, you should try to get your A goal. But then I do think it is important because sometimes, especially in longer things, like finding the motivation or like the why of like you're doing it, then I feel like sometimes having tiered goals after that like help keep you motivated throughout your run. Like even if it's just like I want to, like I said, like eat all my calories, and like your goals can change throughout a race too. Like it can go from like I want to win and run this time to like I literally just want to finish this race. And I think that's okay too. Like I think giving ourselves grace and also like little carrots, because accomplishing your goals is fun. And if all of your goals are huge and a little maybe unreasonable, like maybe in a year you don't get any of those ones, then I feel like it could be a little sad. So I think, yeah, lots of goals, not all of them I think should be like tied to winning or racing even, or like doing more. Because like even Strava has you put in those little goals sometimes. For mileage, I usually just put whatever year it is. Like next year will be 2025. So my goal will be to run 2,025 miles, which
you'll hit by, by October.
Well, but maybe not. Like you never know. Like if you get hurt or don't run as much. And so I think like keeping that in mind too, that like more isn't always better. Because I think on my little Strava Wrapped, it said that I've run like, I think almost like 15 to 20% more miles. But like on paper, I feel like I had a much better year last year. So I don't know. Maybe it was, I also was training for a 100-miler this year and not last year.
What about when you're setting goals, do you bounce that off of Rick, or are these all coming from yourself? Or like how do you, like what's your process for coming up with your goals in the first place?
I feel like the first thing is, am I excited about it? Because if I'm not excited about it, then I probably shouldn't do it. And then like within that, like if I'm choosing a race or a fastest known time or a thing like that, then after that, and I feel excited about it, I'll bounce it off of Rick, my coach, and be like, good idea, bad idea. Most of the time he says, good idea, or we can make that work, or we could see. And then within that, I normally like have a pretty good like feeling of what I think I could run. And then Rick will also come up with something, and usually they're pretty close. And so then like sometimes time goals are like based off of that. Yeah, or just like whatever excites me. Like running in new places excites me, so I feel like running 1,000 new miles is a good goal. Or like, I don't know, last year I made trail bingo. I might do that like again this year, and so that's like a bunch of little different like goals. It's also okay to give up on your goals.
Tell me about that. Like when is that okay?
When it's not fun. No, I feel like sometimes you should stick it out a little bit more than just like maybe a little bit past once it's not being fun, but like, I don't know. You guys know, like, I wanted to break 5 minutes in the mile. I'm losing motivation. I'm starting to care less and less. I'm overdoing workouts. I want to go back to jogging. So I might give up. I think I'll revisit it if I do give up. Spring, it's a great time. I don't plan on racing anything like really between Tarawera in February and Broken Arrow in like mid-June. So there's all sorts of time to run a mile. Or maybe I'll do it soon, I don't know. But I might give up for a little bit. This has been another episode of Running Rants with Helen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. That wasn't even a heel clip.